and you have no idea how exciting. And I was blocked by a truck, so I wasn't here exactly when you started. I don't know exactly what Noam said to you, but you know, this neighborhood is named after Abraham. And in a minute I'll tell you why. But what's so exciting about this is that we are taught that Abraham, as we say in Hebrew, Abraham was Av Hamon Goyim, the father of many peoples. And here we have all the peoples. Yes. This is my youngest son. Okay, now let me tell you a little bit about where we are. Many people, I work with different people, journalists that come in, and many of those people believe that the Jewish history of Hebron began in 1967. However, I bring them to this neighborhood and I say, look around, this is the beginning of the history of modern Hebron. Yes. And they say to me, oh, 1967, the Six-Day War. And I say, no, not 1967. This neighborhood was established in the year 1540. In 1540, we're talking about almost 500 years ago. Jews who had been exiled from Spain in 1492 and had gone to live in Turkey came here. They bought this land in 1540, and this became the Jewish quarter. And this was the biggest populated Jewish neighborhood in Hebron. Now, of course, the people, when they came here, they needed a place to worship. So they built a synagogue, which is right above the stairs behind us. And I want to tell you a very special story about the synagogue. Actually, I'm going to tell you two stories. The first story happened in the year 1619. You know, just over a week ago, we celebrated the very, very holy day of Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the year when we fast. And that, in 1619, there was a plague in Hebron. And the people that lived here fled so they wouldn't contract this disease. But they tried to keep 10 men, a minyan, a prayer quorum, in the synagogue all the time. And that year, just before the holy day of Yom Kippur, one of the 10 men who was here didn't feel well. He told his friends he was going to the doctor in Jerusalem, and he'd come back in a few days. And he left. So one day passed, a second day passed, it was the eve of Yom Kippur. They only had 9 men, and they needed 10 men so they'd have a minyan, a prayer quorum. So you know, we begin the holiday not in the morning, but at night. And just before sunset, the 9 men went outside looking, hoping that somebody would come to fulfill the minyan, the prayer quorum. And they saw coming down the road an old man. And they ran to him and said, would you come pray with us so we have 10 men? And he said, of course. And he came here to the synagogue and spent the day praying with them. The next night, as the fast was coming to an end, as they began to end their day of worship, one of the people from Hebron approached the guest, this old man, and said, tonight you can be my guest. You can come home with me to break the fast and rest. And when they'd finished praying, he started to lead the man home. Now the Jewish quarter then, the streets were very narrow and very crooked, and he started to lead the man around and around and around. And he stopped and waited for him, and he looked back. He wasn't there. He thought he was resting. He went back to get him. He couldn't find him. He searched all around, and he couldn't find him. He finally went home. He was very upset that the old man, perhaps he'd left already. He didn't want to even eat. He didn't want to take advantage of the fact that he had been so good to the people here. That night, this man from Hebron had a dream. And the old man appeared before him. And he said, you don't have to worry or be upset. He said, I wasn't hungry and I wasn't thirsty. I just came so you'd have 10 men in Hebron for the holy day of Yom Kippur. My name is your father Abraham. And that happened right back here in the synagogue. Now, that was many hundreds of years ago. Now I want to tell you a modern story. When we came back here in 1967, where the synagogue is today, there was nothing left. There was a sheep sty there. There were goats. There was a garbage dump and a bathroom. And that's the way it was left. In In 1975, one of the most important physicists from the then Soviet Union managed to get out. His name was Professor Benzion Tavkir, and he lived up north in Israel. He came to live in Israel with his family. And one day, he and his family came to Hebron, just like you, to take a tour. And he saw where the synagogue was, and he saw the sheep, and he saw how disgusting it was, that he decided he was going to leave his home in the north, come live in Kiryat Arba, and he was going to come down and clean it out by himself. So he came down every afternoon. He broke through the fence and started to clear out the rubble. Now there were patrols here by security forces, and they found him. And they said, "Professor, what are you doing here?" And they threw him out. And he came back, and they threw him out, and he came back. They finally arrested him. And they took him to court. And the judge said, "Professor, you're trespassing. If you keep going back, I'm going to put you in jail." Professor Benzion Tavkir looked at the judge, and he said, "Your Honor, when I was in Russia, and I told them I wanted to come live in Israel, they sent me to Siberia. And I spent so many years in Siberia that your jail doesn't scare me. If you want me, you can put me in jail. When I get out, I'm going to go back."
Yes!
And it was due to that dedication and that determination that we finally received permission to get out all of the ruins and to rebuild that synagogue as it is today. People worship there every day, and people study. And I'd like to just give you one other little tidbit of information. Professor Tavkir, unfortunately, a number of years ago passed away from a serious illness. However, before he died, he wrote a book about his experiences in Hebron. And his son is standing right over here, Yaakov Tavkir. And,
We bless you!
and
Bless you!
if you would like, after we're finished, he's outside here. If anybody would like to purchase a copy of his book, it's right outside, and you'll have the opportunity to do that when we finish. Before that, I want to tell you a little bit about what's happened here in Hebron over the past few years.
Yes.
In order to do that, we're not going to stay here. I want you to go around outside here. Please stay together. We'll meet right outside here in what looks like a big parking lot, and there I will tell you what has happened here in the last few years. Please follow me.
Just. We just want to bless this community.
God bless Hebron. God bless Hebron. God bless Hebron. God bless
in the God of Israel upon this land, that it will be forever in the hands of his people, that he has brought back from the four corners of the earth, that it will never be ceded to the enemy, and that God will raise up Joseph's and Caleb's inside the Israeli government, that will dare to stand squarely behind these courageous men. And we pray God's blessing on this wonderful son of your father that was willing to risk his life to make this city again a city to the glory of God. We bless you, and we pray that his spirit will be upon you, and that you will speak the words of God to the government of Israel. For you are in the right, and they are in the wrong, when they do not allow Jews to live in one of the most ancient cities that God gave to your people. We bless you from our heart. אנחנו מברכים אותך וגם הקהילה מליבנו ומה שיוצא מהלב אני מקווה נכנס הלב. תודה והשם יברך.